Okay, hi, my name is Sevi, and I'm going to be presenting on this week's lesson of Sonic Arts. So, to start off this week, we had three readings. Our first piece was by Frederick Kittler. He's talking about gramophone, film, and typewriter. And in this piece, to pretty much sum it up, is about how before all of these technological advances and machinery, there was no real way to capture sound. It was a one and done experience where you hear something and that brings up a certain story for you, and that's it. You couldn't record it, you couldn't replay it, you couldn't edit it and evolve it into a story. It was just sound was simply sound versus now it can be a story, it can be music, it can be a whole experience instead of just one simple moment. Now we can edit and alter sound for the greater good, or maybe it's taken away the importance. Could be argued. We also read a piece by Stephen Feld where he talks about acoustomology, where he's pretty much just talking about how sound is linked to culture and environment and emotion. And he also talks about in his piece, Voices from the Rainforest, how the Bosavi people relate their ancestors' voices to bird calls. So a simple sound as a bird call is not just a sound, it's not just a noise, it is a story, it is a voice. So sound is connected to emotion, which is connected to stories and culture and depth. It is not just something you hear once, it's an experience. And then we had Alice Apley, who interviewed Stephen Feld about about his piece Voices in the Rainforest, and where he's pretty much just talking about how he wanted to capture all the different sounds of the rainforest. And like I said earlier, how they're not just sounds, and how you can tell a whole story and live a whole life, live a whole experience just through the simple sound, no editing, no alternation. It's just simple noise, which is so much more than that. We also had a video which talks about the McGurk effect, which was pretty much showing us that the illusion of that what we see overpowers what we hear. So the ba and fa effect. So you see someone's mouth moving in the fa motion, but what you're hearing is actually ba. But since you're seeing that certain motion, your brain just connects the two. And the relevance of this, what I would say, is that the power to hear is such a strong power, but it is more than just sound. It's all about an experience and it's all about context. So, going into something that you're going to hear, the context of what you already believe or what you're already thinking or how you already feel impacts what you hear and impacts what that means to you. Just like the bird call. If I'm hearing a bird call, it's just a bird call. But if I go in with the context of this means something to my ancestors, that's what I'm going to hear because that's my culture, that's my identity, and that's what I connect the sound to. So then we did have the screening of Voices of the Rainforest by Stephen Feld, I don't know why I keep saying Steven, where he revisits his 1991 recording and made it into a film where he tells the whole story of the Bosavi people and the Bosavi rainforest just through images and sound, and basically just shows the day-to-day life without any description, without any dialogue. It's just sound, yet you can feel it so powerful because everything in life is sound, is about motion and brings out emotion just through watching this. And again, it's about the acoustomology that, sound is tied to culture and tied to environment. I mean, this whole environment has its own unique sound that you'll never hear anywhere else and that you'll connect just to this. So it's very beautiful to see that this whole story, this whole experience can be told just through the simplicity of sound. Then we also had two musical performances. We had John Cage's performance where it was silent, quote unquote. He comes out 4:33 and there's no performance. The only thing we hear is this background noise. And so what this is supposed to present is there is no true silence. There is always sound. There is always a story being told. And it's all about context and what you're focusing on. Because you could be focusing on the instruments, but the sounds in the back are still going on. So he did this in a sort of way of showing us, let's listen to those sounds, and there's a whole story around us. Versus we have Luciano's piece, which is very different. It's very intense. It's lapping over a bunch of different sounds, edited sounds, voices, this sort of very big dramatic story. And so you can compare and contrast these two, that one is very simple, the delicate, the background story, and one is the upfront, intense, showing you exactly what you're hearing. Yet they're both telling stories in their own individual way because it's all about how you hear it and how you perceive it. So the common themes, obviously acoustomology, knowing through sound. Sound is tied to culture, it's tied to identity, it's not just as simple as a noise. Pay attention to the background. It's a form of knowledge. You can understand what's around you if you take a second to hear it and hear it as a story and not just as noise or clutter that's behind you. Sound is not objective, it depends on context. So just like the McGurk illusion, whatever you want to hear is what you're going to hear. So what you're bringing in is how the story is going to come off to you. And layer and remix sounds can create new meaning, just like Luciano did, where he layers a bunch of different stories into one very dramatic, beautiful piece, which is also just as beautiful as the piece that is quote unquote nothing. Because again, it's all about how you tie this to your emotion, how you experience the art, and what you want to take away from it. So my discussion questions are: what statement or message was John Cage going for in 433 with having performance lack any actual performing? What was his intention with that? And does this lesson persuade you to believe sight is the strongest of the senses, or is it a weaker sense since it can be easily fooled? So does the power of hearing easily overpower sight? Because without hearing, you can't really understand what you're seeing. Interesting questions. I'd love to hear what people have to say, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.